We are believers, we are teachers, we are all God's creatures. We are opening up the doors to our home. We cherish the moments when we see our children with faith burning strong, learning at their own paces, smiles on their glowing faces. We're caring for their education. Come and join our family at Eden Hope Academy.
Hope Academy, I am Miss Kim and this is
Anna.
And we are on week 15. All right, so Anna, I'm going to read the Bible verse to you and I want you to just follow along.
Okay.
Let me just read it because maybe the two of us would be confusing.
Okay.
Okay. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourself treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also. That's pretty cool. What does that mean? What's a vermin?
Is a vermin something that...
A vermin is like a mouse or a rat, or what else could be a vermin? Can you guys email me what a vermin is to you? It's like anything that is going to eat your stuff. So like, for example, if you had like a beautiful coat that you absolutely loved and everyone went, oh, and you just look adorable in that coat, that is so cute, and you just love this coat, then if you left it somewhere where mice could get to, what would those mice do to your coat?
They would eat it.
They'd eat holes all through your pretty coat, right? And then your pretty coat, people would go, ew, what happened to your pretty coat, Anna? Ooh, it wouldn't be so pretty, right?
No.
Yeah. So the Bible says, do not store up. So this is a storage unit. So I want you to put some stuff into the storage unit that you should not be storing. Maybe if you have too many toys, or what else could you be storing that you really shouldn't be?
Too much candy.
Too much candy, something like that. You're right. So fill this up with things you should not be keeping. And then it says that God is going to give you treasure in heaven, but what does that look like? Do you know?
Maybe like gold and...
Well, how do you get treasure in heaven?
Believing.
Believing in God. How about doing kind things for other people? Something like that? Mm-hmm. So like feeding other people, stuff like that. That's storing up treasure in heaven. So I want you to put a bunch of heavenly treasure right here. Can you do that? Next is the Great Potato Famine. Occurred in Ireland. Where's Ireland? Do you know? What country is that next to? What is Ireland a part of now? Great Britain.
Great Britain?
Yeah, Great Britain. Ireland is part of that now. Ireland, I think it is. I'm gonna have to look this up. Okay, now I'm getting like confused. Okay, oops. Okay, so Ireland grew potatoes, and they grew a whole bunch of other crops too. It wasn't just potatoes. They grew wheat and barley and rye and all kinds of other crops and animals, but all of the other crops that they grew, plus all their animals, got put on ships and sent to England. And then the English people would sit and they would eat all that stuff, or they would trade it around the world. But they had to put everything on ships. And the only thing that they didn't have to put on ships and give to England were...
Potatoes?
Good job. Potatoes. They got to keep potatoes for themselves. And most of the time that went pretty well. They kept the potatoes, they ate lots and lots of potatoes, and the British got the rest of it. And basically, the wealthy British people owned most of Ireland. Mm-hmm. And so they had kind of like plantations where they owned it, and the Irish had to work their land for them. And then the Irish ate the potatoes and they got everything else. But one year in 1846, probably in 1845, the potatoes got hit with blight. And blight is a disease that you can't see from the outside, but potatoes are grown what? On trees?
No.
How are potatoes grown?
Underground.
Yes, so they're not like apples, right?
No.
Where you can see them growing. They grow underground. And can you like rip up potatoes, see if they're ready or not, and pluck them back down in the ground?
No.
No. So what they did was they saw that the leaves and all looked fine, but then when they dug up the potatoes, they were mushy and they were not edible. And so many potatoes were rotten. And you would think with all of the wheat and the barley and the animals and stuff like that, that the Irish people would be just fine, right? Not
But
so much.
they had to give it to
The British, the English, right? So Irish people began to starve and they were dying from starvation. And the British Parliament just they weren't really paying attention to it very much. And so over 2 million Irish people came to the United States to live here. Pretty cool, huh? Not cool for them because they had to leave because of famine, but it's pretty cool that we got 2 million Irish people. So a lot of you are descendants from those Irish people. Next is scientist Louis Pasteur developed the underpinning of modern biology and germ theory. He developed a process known as pasteurization. Do you see his name in that word, pasteurization? Kind of cool. So if it was something that Anna invented, it would be Glanowskiization, something like that. Or I want you to send me an email with what it would be if we used your last name for a big invention, or maybe your first name. So his work proved that bacteria and fungi from the environment were causing infection and spoilage. So what he proved that all around us there is yeast and bacteria and fungi in the air, and it's going to get on you, and when it gets into something, then it will reproduce if it's something that it can reproduce. So like when I'm making a certain type of yeast bread, I actually leave a jar open with some liquid in it, and that attracts the yeast, and then I can make the bread from it. So that there's just yeast in the air. It's kind of cool. And so he found that out, and we now know how to get the bacteria and all out of our foods if we so desire. Is it always valuable to get the bacteria out, or do we want some in sometimes?
We do want some in
We
sometimes.
do. We do. Like a lot of people think we should get all of the bacteria that's good and bad out of milk, but we kind of well, we won't say that on a video. Okay. Alaska, Arizona, Alaska, and Hawaii are our states for this week. And those are our last states. So we have Jordan, and he's in our Seattle, Washington campus, and he is an amazing gymnast. That's why he's doing a handstand, because he's a really good gymnast. And this is Ari, and he's in our Reston, Virginia campus, and he is an electronics genius. Ari is very, 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 very bright, isn't he? We like Ari. We like Jordan too. Do you store up treasure? Do you hold on to things that you know you should give to others? How does that work out for you? Do you just have a big mess in your room? I'm not going to ask you that question. Do you have trouble cleaning your room because of the clutter? Oh, it's another question I cannot ask Anna. What does it look like when we store up treasure in heaven? Oh, sorry, you were looking? Okay, what does it look like when we store up treasure in heaven?
A mess.
No, in heaven.
Oh, neat.
It's cool.
Pretty.
God has plans for us in heaven. And so when we give, God is going to reward us in heaven. So I want you to try to store up treasure in heaven this week by doing things that are kind for other people, and then tell your mom about it at the end of the week. Okay? Can you guys all do that? All right, next we have Queen Victoria and British colonization. And Victoria was an extremely long reigning queen of Great Britain, and she's a really neat person. I've read a lot about her, and I could just talk about Queen Victoria all day long, but I can't because we don't have that much time on the video. But she was very young when she became queen, and she wasn't prepared to be queen at all. And so she was extremely bright in that she was humble. And so her first task was to sit in front of all of the cabinet, all of the important people that would be advising her. And she sat down at the head of the table, and she could have said anything. She was queen. She could have fired them all, or she could have said, "From here on out, I decree that everyone shall have chocolate ice cream in Great Britain every day," or something like that, because she was fairly young. But instead she said, "I am young and I'm inexperienced, and so I'm going to depend on you to help me, and I hope that you'll be able and you will help me to run this great country." And so it started out on this amazing reign of an extremely important and interesting person, and she started colonizing the whole globe. And so there's a saying that the sun never sets on the British Empire, and it was because the British Empire had colonies completely around the world, and the sun never set on them because it was always day sometime in the British Empire. And so I want you to, I'm going to read this really quickly. I'm going to read some of this. During Queen Victoria's reign, the British Empire expanded across the globe and strengthened its title as a world superpower. So literally on every continent, there were British colonies, like Australia, for example. Do you know what that was? It was a penal colony, meaning it was for jail. It was a jail colony. And so basically it was horrific when you think about it. People who got in trouble in Great Britain would be loaded onto ships away from their family and everyone, and they'd be shipped to Australia and dumped overboard, and they would just have to live in Australia. So they were just kind of dumped overboard on that continent. And before that, our state of Georgia was the same thing. That's where the people who'd gotten in trouble with the law went. And you have to remember that some of these people were just in debtor's prison, meaning that they couldn't afford to pay their debt. So they were just normal, good people who had gotten themselves in financial trouble. So can you imagine not being able to pay your debt and then winding up being thrown overboard in Australia? Had to be kind of scary. So we diverted. All right, so what I want you to do is think about all of the places that Queen Victoria colonized, and I want you to draw a picture of Queen Victoria in a beautiful gown looking over a globe of the world. But then I want you to really think about the people in Asia and Africa in particular, who their entire culture and their lives changed because the British came. And they had societies and lives, and they had traditions. And the British did not respect those, and in India as well, the British did not respect those and came over and colonized them. And it changed their lives forever. The next one is pasteurization. So we're going to do these in science. And then we're right about ready to go to timeline. So get out your timeline cards. We're almost ready for them, okay? Say bye, Anna.
Bye.
See you later.